on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. We're going to talk about how the myth that the civil rights leaders were all moral and good men is just that, a myth. It is a lie. I'm going to tell you about some of their hidden secrets today on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. All right, let's get this thing started. You know, y'all, back in March 5th, 1953, the great Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin died in Russia. All Russian people went crazy. They gave Stalin a big funeral and fanfare all over the place and, periods of mourning, and they embalmed him and laid him out for everybody to come see. They said people were so sad in the old Soviet Union that even the people that Stalin had put into the gulags wept and cried because Stalin was dead. They buried him in the Kremlin wall right beside Lenin, tomb of Lenin, and made him equal to Lenin. Pictures of Stalin stuff all over the place inside of Russia. Well, in 1956, Nikita Khrushchev had taken Stalin's place. And they're going through the files of the old Soviet Union and come to find out Stalin was a stone-cold killer and a murderer. He had killed tens of millions of Russians, taking their land, their property, and many people didn't know that Stalin had been such a brute, that he had done so many terrible things to the Soviet Union that so many people had suffered behind his leadership, and that Stalin had a cult of personality in the Soviet Union. Everybody had his picture up, streets named after him, universities named after him, Stalingrad was named after him, towns named after him, statues all over the place. It was a cult of personality. And Stalin had hardened the Russian people because Stalin was such a hard person. And Khrushchev and the Politburo in Russia said, we got to go to a period of de-Stalinization. Yeah. De-Stalinization. So Khrushchev went before the people and told them all of Stalin's crimes. And then they pulled his body out of the Kremlin wall and buried it somewhere else. They started pulling down the statues, and they took the name off of Stalingrad, and they changed the name of the towns and the cities and things like that. And Stalin became less and less a hero, and he was put in his proper place in Soviet and now Russian history. I said all that to say this. This same reckoning is coming with Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement. The more information we get about these guys, the more we find out that these guys were horrible people. They were working for the communists in the Soviet Union, and their job was to actually take the black community. And this is not hyperbole. In his book, Parting the Waters, America in the King Years, Taylor Branch wrote that the KGB, the Soviet secret police, just like the American CIA, had been given instructions to tell its people in the civil rights movement, yeah, they had handlers in the civil rights movement, that they had one job, and that was to make the black community a direct replica of the Soviet Union. And they did it. Dictator worship, one-party rule, apostate religion, extreme poverty, substance abuse so you can keep the people inebriated and doing what they're supposed to do, terrible education so the people couldn't have the intelligence to fight back, destruction of the family, police state. This is why when you go into the black community, it's a third world nation and a first world nation, because the leadership of the black community is the same as the leadership of the old Soviet Union, Cuba, North Korea. And if you go into any one of these nations and you go to the black community, you say, dang, they look just alike. That's a lot to resemble here. And so this is what King and the civil rights movement now are being revered for. For basically taking a black community that was on its way up and then slamming it. On June 4th, 2022, I think it was, The Washington Post put out a story that said there had been no narrowing in the wealth gap between black and white Americans since 1968. No narrowing in the wealth gap. What happened in 1968? It was the end of the civil rights movement, basically. It stopped, and it had done what it was supposed to do. It got a bunch of Marxists and Leninists and everything into the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party became nothing but a communist, Marxist organization. Ruling over ghettos, and proud of it. So today I'm going to talk to you about some of these, icons in the civil rights movement, especially the SELC, Martin Luther King's group. A lot of these cats were just guys doing their thing. Roy Wilkins at the NAACP, him and Thurgood Marshall. Yeah, they were who they were. They were liberal, but they weren't communists and Marxists. Whitney Young at the Urban League, same thing. He was maybe a liberal, believed in this whole thing that you can make white folks like black people by passing laws, putting guns to their head. James Farmer down at Court, the same thing. Guys that would just believe that in nonviolent resistance, and you can pass laws to make white people love black people. And the guys at SNCC, now SNCC turned very, very militant. Stokely Carmichael and H. Rap Brown and all of those guys turned militants. But I don't know if, SNCC kind of started hanging out with the Black Panthers. But I don't know if SNCC really picked up the guns at the end of it. I don't. They got weird at the end. Let's just put it like that, and they just kind of dissolved. But nobody could say that SNCC was like a communist front, or maybe SNCC was a communist front. Maybe they were at the end of it. But the SELC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Martin Luther King's organization, them suckers were like Animal House, man. They were crazy. Just a bunch of perverts, drunks, hoe chasers, going around town with a whole bunch of money, just having orgies all over the country, and then they do a civil rights march and have an orgy. Get drunk and have an orgy. So I wrote a chapter in my best-selling book, 25 Lies. And the chapter is, chapter number 11. And the name of the chapter is lie number 10, Civil Rights Movement Leaders Were Moral. That's a lie. Them jokers might have been a whole lot of things. Moral wasn't one of them. Again, y'all have heard me come down on King real hard, but man, there's just so much stuff to give on this dude. It's just, King is like the giving tree. He's a guy that just keep on giving. He can't stop. I mean, you think that a joker would just have enough immorality in his time. No, man, the FBI said that all the jokers they ever wiretapped and watched, King was like the top 3 of the worst of anybody they ever had to deal with. And you got mafia dons, you got guys over the Soviet bloc, you got murderers, you got drug dealers. They said King was the top 3 of the worst jokers they ever had to deal with. Top 3. I'm wondering who the other 2 was. So it was this thing about, you look at what King did, it could be, jokers involved in prostitutes, so that's sex trafficking. Because I told you about the white prostitute by the name of Gail. They said that her and Clara Ward and this other preacher got her and did what they did with her. Sex trafficking, and then David Garrow wrote in Sandpoint Magazine, said that King and these people had gone to this place to do some marching and whatnot, and that King had a friend by the name of Logan Kearse. Kearse. Kearse had a PhD from Boston University, just like King did, PhD in theology. So I guess in order to have a PhD in theology from Boston University, you had to be a pervert. This dude was a pervert just like King. And you got to find out how they find each other like this. I mean, they didn't have no dating apps back then. So how these perverts just roll up on each other? They have a special club they go to or something, and it's like the pervert club, and everybody has a pervert. I mean, because they just kind of congregated together. King and all his old pervert friends, right? So Logan Kearse came to Washington, D.C., and they were staying at the Willard Hotel. And King was in town. So he called King up and said, hey, King, I done brought some women from my church with me. Come on up to my hotel room and let's get down with the get down. King said, you ain't got to tell me twice. So King rolls up to the hotel room with Logan Kearse. Now notice this. Logan Kearse has brought women up to his hotel room from his church. These are women that he's supposed to be bringing to Christ, that he's supposed to be counseling, and he was doing his counseling. He's supposed to help save their souls. Nah, that ain't what King and Logan was doing. They brought these women up to get them drunk and to use them as sex objects. So David Garrow says, and again, Standpoint Magazine, David Garrow, MLK, read it for yourself. They said that as King and Logan Kearse said now how they're going to use these women for sex acts, natural and unnatural, one of the women started complaining that she didn't come there for that. She won't be involved in that type of nasty behavior. Well, of course, King and Logan Kearse were gentlemen and just let the woman leave. But, ma'am, if you don't want to do this, ma'am, you can go down and leave. We're not going to, Oh, no, not them. According to the FBI reports, Logan Kearse took the woman, forcibly raped her, and that Martin Luther King Jr. sat there and watched and laughed and gave him advice on how to do it properly. Oh, this is just despicable. Took the woman, forcibly raped her. While Martin Luther King Jr. watched the rape, laughed, and gave him advice on how to do it properly. That's a rape charge. Everywhere in America, there's sexual assault. Yet he has a statue. There's some type of weird irony in this. Like I talked about Stalin just a few minutes ago, now we look at Assad, when they went into Syria and they saw that people had all these pictures of Assad all over the place, and he fell. Now, I remember when they went into Iraq, and the same thing with Saddam Hussein. These pictures were up everywhere of Saddam Hussein, the cult of personality, and he fell. It's some type of weird irony that God plays on us, that when we try to make gods out of men with feet of clay, we come to find out that we put the worst men of our society in these positions of gods. The first commandment is absolutely positively plain and clear. I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other God before me. There's a cult of personality around Martin Luther King Jr. Does anybody listening to me today doubt it? You can't go into any city that ain't got a Martin Luther King Boulevard. You can't go to any big town that ain't a Martin Luther King High School. Oh, this named after King. That's named after King. They got a King church named somewhere in Europe. I mean, it's just an insanity about a man. George Washington and Abraham Lincoln used to have their own birthdays. To get to King Day, They took the George Washington birthday because they didn't want to have too many federal holidays because it cost too much money. So they took away George Washington and Abraham Lincoln's birthday, combined them in the President's Day to give King his own holiday. And black folks still wasn't satisfied. What did King say? You ask me, when will we be satisfied? We will never be satisfied. Nonetheless, justice rolls down like water and justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. That's a fancy way of saying never. And we never are. You can give 10 more fake black holidays like Juneteenth and King Day. You can give 1,000 Obama phones, 100,000, 100 million more Obama phones. You can give more free housing. You can give more Obamacare. You can give everybody a free Cadillac, and they're still going to be mad. You know why? Because man without Jesus Christ is suicidal. Nothing can make him happy. And then if he's got Jesus in his heart, you can take him and put him in a one-room trailer, and he's happy as he can be. Why? Because Jesus said that when he left, what did he leave us? The peace of God that transcends all understanding. My peace I leave with you. No justice, no peace. We're going to march till we get our check. It led black people into a quandary where you can't even live with them no more. Self-hate all around. Why? Because it's an old mafia term to say a fish rots from the head down. King's ahead. An organization rots from the head down. Who leads it? And this is why Khrushchev went and said, we got to de-Stalinize Russia. Russia has gotten too mean. Behind this ideology, black American has gotten too mean and too ridiculously victimized behind this ideology. I need somebody else to do something before I can feel good about myself. Before racism can stop in America, white people have to change it to make me feel good. White people have to give up their privilege. Are you mad? Nobody's going to give up their privilege for you. They might tell you that, because just like me, I ain't giving up my privilege for nobody. Vince, give up your money. You can count me out on that one. Give up your house, give up your clothes. Man, you crazy. So all these white folks talking about, we need to give up our white privilege. I was like, how come you ain't gave up your house and your land yet? I'm waiting for somebody else. See, ain't gonna do nothing. And so King has trapped us into this thing of believing that white people are gonna have to do something in order for us to have something. Never gonna happen. You're gonna have to pick your own self up and get to work. They don't talk about that, do they? So it's another lie that the left put out. You know, of all the lies that they put out. So when these old ignorant liberals broke into the FBI headquarters in Medea, Pennsylvania, and stole the COINTELPRO papers, the one piece of information that they found in the COINTELPRO papers that really made them just lose their mind, FBI crazy, and all these people hated King, hated the civil rights movement, was this letter that they called the suicide letter. The King suicide letter. I don't know if any of y'all have heard about it, but it was a mean piece of psych ops that the FBI played on King. And it's real. It's a letter that told King that you are an immoral beast, you're no good, you're done. You're an awful person, you're a terrible person, you're degenerate. All that was true. You're a hypocrite, you're a fake black leader, you're a fake reverend, you're all of it. They gave him all of it. And we got tapes of you doing all this stuff with women. You're an evil, immoral beast. And they had a copy of the tapes, sent it to his house. Wife heard it. King in all kind of trouble. Yeah, King got caught in the act of getting down. They sent the tapes to him. And then they said on the tapes, King, you are done. They said that you have something that you got to do, and you got 34 days to do it. You know what it is. And people thought that meant that King had to commit suicide. They said, you got 34 days to do it, King. 34 days. You're done. You get 34 days to do it, and we're going to release this out to the world for everybody to see just how moral and nasty you are. 34 days. Everybody said, oh, my goodness. Suicide letter. And, of course, and if you Google it and say King suicide letter, that's what comes up, suicide letter. They have told everybody in the world that this was a letter telling King to commit suicide. Well, the reason why my books sell so many copies, y'all, and the reason why they are bestsellers, and the reason why the Iron Triangle was listed number 61 on the greatest political books ever written is because I got a big brain. And I don't just listen to what people tell me. I do research and I dig. And I said to myself, all right, the letter says that if King don't do this in 34 days, that they were going to release all this stuff to the press. Well, they tried to say that. And I said, well, King didn't commit suicide, and the stuff wasn't released to the press. So what happened here? And J. Edgar Hoover wasn't the type of dude that bluffed. So I said, so what happened here? Well, they tried to say in history, well, Hoover tried to release it, the stuff, and nobody would print it, and nobody would play it on television. I said, man, are you crazy? You're going to go down to Jackson, Mississippi that hated Martin Luther King Jr. You're going to go down to Little Rock, Arkansas that hated King. You're going to go to Memphis, Tennessee that hated King? And you're going to give them some tapes that show King doing this stuff, and they're going to say, well, we ain't going to print it because we got standards here. The FBI didn't release it because King did what the FBI told him to do. And do you know what that was? Is everybody paying attention? What was it? All right, King had come out from Inside Baseball here. He had come out about 2 months earlier. And it said that J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI weren't doing what they were supposed to do. J. Edgar Hoover was no good. The FBI wasn't protecting civil rights workers down south. They hadn't arrested anybody for Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney. The FBI need to get on his job. The FBI is no count. Hoover didn't appreciate that. There's a lot of jokes in Washington, D.C. you can slap, but J. Edgar Hoover, I'll tell you, he wasn't one of them. Richard Nixon said, if two jokers in Washington you didn't mess with, and he didn't say he said F with, and that was J. Edgar Hoover and Dick Helms. Dick Helms was over the CIA, Hoover over the FBI. You don't mess with them. King didn't get that memo. So King decided to go out and slap J. Edgar Hoover in the face, and thought that J. Edgar Hoover was the type to sit back and say, oh, my jaw hurting. J. Edgar Hoover was stone cold gangster. So when they asked J. Edgar Hoover about it, J. Edgar Hoover stood up and told the people, he said, Martin Luther King Jr. is the most notorious liar in the United States of America. And everybody said, oh, Martin Luther King? They didn't know what Hoover knew about it. They didn't know that Hoover had heard all those little FBI tapes of King, involved in what some say was homosexual activity and raping women and all that kind of stuff. And so Hoover didn't have no respect for him. Oh, all the crap hit the fan then. So people from the FBI office called Martin Luther King Jr. and said, you better get back in line, boy. King probably told him, make me. And they sent him them tapes. And what was the thing them King had to do within 34 days? Had to come down to FBI headquarters. Hoover wasn't coming to him. Come to FBI headquarters, kiss Hoover's ring, turn around and tell the press that J. Edgar Hoover is a good master. He does whatever we want him to do. We love Master Hoover, and we just want to just stay with Master Hoover for the rest of our lives. And you know what happened, y'all? You can take this date and write it down. On December 6th, let me see, the tapes were sent to King on November 21st, 1964. He had 34 days to do his mea culpa. By December 6th, 1964, December 6th, 1964, King had gone down to the FBI office. All the press was there. He walks inside of Hoover's office, and King kisses the ring. And King comes outside, and he said, J. Edgar Hoover is great. J. Edgar Hoover's doing a great job. J. Edgar Hoover love black folks. J. Edgar Hoover's protecting black folks down south. He said he's going to arrest these guys that got Schwerner, Goodman, and Cheney. Go Hoover, go Hoover, go Hoover, go Hoover. My white man. You don't believe it? Read it. I just cracked the Rosetta Code, y'all. Every historian in America right now that's seeing his head about to explode because everything they've read for the past 40 years have said that the FBI sent, 50 years said, FBI sent Martin Luther King Jr. a suicide letter telling him to kill himself. And yet he didn't commit suicide and nothing got out. The cult of personality behind Martin Luther King. The big lie. Now, it's amazing to watch. I sit back and I watch it all the time because I know so much about history. And I watch this stuff. And I watch these guys. And I see how messed up they are. And I mean, these cats are messed up, man. I mean, these dudes are messed up. And you know what? It got so bad with King. There's this baseball player, his name is Don Newcombe. Y'all can look Don Newcombe up. He was an all-star, great baseball player. And Don Newcombe was one of the first black people to get into the major leagues and really do well. And he was like a hero of the black community, all involved in the civil rights movement. You get Don Newcombe on camera, him and Martin Luther King Jr. all hugged up, loving each other, doing stuff together. Oh, but in Standpoint magazine, this article, the FBI report said something different. They said Don Newcombe called Lyndon Johnson. That's how big Don Newcombe was. He could call the president and say, I need to talk to you. He said, what you want to talk to the president about? He said, I can't tell you on the phone. I got to talk to him in person now. They said, all right. So the president was busy, so they said, is this something important? He said, well, let me talk to J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover said, Don, come on in. And Don Newcombe sat there and told J. Edgar Hoover, Mr. Hoover, Martin Luther King Jr. has lost his mind. He crazy. Hoover said, what you talking about? He said, man, he drunk. He out there chasing women. He got this girlfriend. He was getting ready to jump out a window because she said she didn't love him. We had to pull him and hold him back. The man has lost his mind. And the whole civil rights movement is hanging on this guy. And he's a complete, utter moron. We got to change him out. This is Don Newcombe, the all-star baseball player, telling this to J. Edgar Hoover that Martin Luther King Jr. had to be changed out. He was a disgrace. And Hoover said, I'll take this to the President of the United States of America, Don. That's all I can do. King is the guy. And he said, we're trying to protect him. And Newcombe said, Mr. Hoover, I don't know how much we can do anymore. Because Martin Luther King Jr. is a runaway freight train. Drinking, hoeing, fighting. Crazy. Again, my reference, Standpoint magazine, David Garrow, MLK. Read it for yourself. And it's just the tip of the iceberg on this dude. I can go on King for the next 12 hours. Crazy crap he was doing. But you know what, y'all? He's a god, ain't he? A god with feet of clay. A cult of personality that's taught black people to hate themselves. That's taught us to hold our country in condemnation. It's taught us to believe that the government is God, that you're not free, that you're supposed to be more concerned about how you're viewed by white Americans and how you're viewed by God and how you view yourself. I'm dreaming about a day that I won't be judged by the color of my skin. By whom? I'll never be satisfied. I want equality. Equality to whom? We want to be free. The slave is someone who waits to set him free. We need to be protected. You better protect yourself. He's led us to the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in America. As Stalin in Russia, or the Soviet Union, as Saddam Hussein in Iraq, as Assad in Syria, and what they're going to have to also do in Cuba not long from now, when it comes down to Castro and the Castro brothers. This wicked ideology in the black community has to be pulled up root and stern. But first, we got to have a conversation about the person that's taking the place of God in our community, this cult of personality. You can't go into a black person's home without seeing a picture of him. You can't go into a black area of a city without seeing a street named after him. You can't go into the black community without seeing buildings named after him. Nobody else in America has that. It's a cult of personality like a dictator. It has to be stopped. Not because you're an American, but because you're a Christian, and nobody should have that type of reverence in our community except Jesus Christ. Like y'all done lost y'all mind. What the hell wrong with y'all? King Day, King statue, King this, King that. And ask about Jesus Christ and you don't know nothing. And then you're wondering why your children are dying. Yeah, these white liberals have made a fool out of y'all. Yeah, we're going to have this conversation. I'm having it right now. Grown men. I remember when Obama became president. Just lost their mind like that. Obama T-shirts on, Obama tattooed on their arm, Obama pictures in their house. And I'm looking around, I've seen a madman beget more madmen. I said, everybody has lost their mind. And you come to find out, look at what he is. A plant. For white liberalism. That's all he was. Everybody looking back here, Obama didn't do nothing for black folks. He wasn't supposed to. Yeah, you won't do nothing for yourself. What did Dr. King do? Well, he got us the right to vote. We had the right to vote in 1870. When they passed the 15th Amendment giving black men the right to vote. And in 1920, when they passed the 19th Amendment giving women the right to vote. Well, the white folks wouldn't let us. Say what? There was 3 times more black men in South Carolina than white folks. 2 times more in Mississippi. Half and half in Georgia and Alabama. What you mean they wouldn't let you vote? Us was scared. Us was scared. Well, our Star Spangled Banner ends with this great phrase that you need to remember. Does that Star Spangled Banner still yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave? You know why? Because you got to be brave to be free. Well, he fixed it so we could sit beside white folks on the toilet. Well, you know, I'm going to tell you something about that, man. I've sat beside white men on toilets, and that's overrated. We can sit beside white folks on the lunch counter and eat. Makes your food taste better, huh? Somebody that ignorant don't deserve citizenship or freedom. And you sure don't deserve to call yourself a Christian and a child of God and of the Most High. That you see yourself as such a fungus and an amoeba. We are Americans. We are Christians. Most of us are. Most of us say we are. We are heirs of Jesus Christ. We're children of God. Martin Luther King Jr. was an apostate, a horrible individual. He does not have the right to sit before the world and lecture us about who we're supposed to be. Let us turn back to the teachings of Jesus Christ. That's where your strength comes from. That's where your morality comes from. Let us turn back to our Constitution and tell us how to live as citizens. But to the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr., nah. I'm done with them. And you need to be done too. I went a little long on this one, so I'm going to give you a part 2 on the immorality of the leaders of the civil rights movement. So stay tuned. We got a cliffhanger, man. So, as I told you before, if you didn't believe it before, I bet you believe it now. I am here to wake you up. Hope I did you some good today. So let's do part 2 tomorrow on the immorality of the civil rights leaders on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. All right, friends, Vince Everett Ellison is here. I want you to go to my website, and on my website, you're going to see a lot of great stuff, man. You're going to see that we got T-shirts, we got caps, you got my books, my documentaries, you got all kinds of stuff on Vince VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts. We're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it. Make it #1. If you got my first 3, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good. And it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We can no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Hit merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentaries. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.